Tanse kinanaskum na minagakyo tatamskat na nanaskumamina okite kanigano ti tiaimihat minantatamskoal ay sino kutaga pingtung tikapipig square. My name is Sylvia McAdam, as our host has said. I want to thank each and every one of you for welcoming me into your territory. I want to thank the indigenous people of these lands for allowing me to come here. I also want to thank the prayer that leads the way. That's part of our indigenous sovereignty as indigenous people all over the world. I No More came from 4 women, and one of them is a white woman. She's become a powerful sister of ours. How it happened was, I'm a lawyer, and I had been in the law school for many years. And when I went back to my people's lands, to my people's territories, I come from the Treaty 6 territory in what is called Saskatchewan, Canada now, but my people call Turtle Island. In my mind, I was going back to that childhood of those lands and those waters. And in my mind, I was wanting to go back to those. And when I did, and when I started to go back, they were gone. The rivers that I had known as a child, that we drank from, were dried up. And the trees and the land was so devastated that it scared me. But there was still land that was still there that I could still go back to. And you know, I'm not, coming from a law background, I'm not one to say words like solidarity, unity, sisterhood, brotherhood. I wasn't. You would not have heard me speak that language 8 months ago. But since I know more, and since going back to the lands of my people, I understand that language much better. There's a spirit behind that language. So when I fell in love with the land again, is what happened. It was a powerful reconnecting of my people's lands and the waters. There were streams that I still found that I could drink from, which is really unique in this day and age in my country, in my territory, that you could still drink water that comes from the ground. So all this was going on for me, and I was moving away from Facebook. And it just happened in October, somebody tagged me on something, and I didn't really pay attention. And then I went looking for this legislation. Here it was Bill C-45. And if you know anything about Canada, and I invite you to go and research the Indian Act. The Indian Act is still a system of apartheid that's implemented and still is being utilized in Canada. I'm a part of that apartheid system. The Indian Act dictates my life as an Indigenous person. I still carry a card that separates me. So when I came in, my host, Veronica asked me, will you have any problem to come in here? And I said, no, I won't have a problem because I have this card. And I didn't have a problem, and I won't have a problem crossing those borders because of that card. So when I started reading Bill C-45, it was a massive document, 450 pages. They introduced it on October 18th. The Canadian state introduced it. And I didn't understand it. I took out my law dictionary Black's Law Dictionary, and I sat there and I tried to understand it. I finally had to send it to some friends of mine that had more knowledge about the law. And they came back and they said, this is what it's going to do. And I was shocked. I was dumbfounded that the Canadian state had the audacity and the arrogance again to dictate that my people's lands to be surrendered and to be redesignated for nuclear storage. Nuclear storage. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, they removed the Navigable Waters Protection Act, which protects all bodies of water in all of my people's territories. They removed that, which means all the corporations in the world would have free access to all of our pristine waters. And if you know anything about Canada, Canada right now has the largest bodies of fresh water left in the world. So when I went back to that stream of water where my people rely on to drink and access the fresh water to use for our medicines, because some of our medicines, they cannot tolerate the chemicals that come from the tap water. We need that fresh water. I went and stood at that water and I said, I can't do it. I can no longer just stand by and not do anything. So I never met Jessica. I never met Sheila. I never met, I think I might have met Nina one time. So it was through a conversation on Facebook that we said, we can't stand by. We have to say something. There's something in Canadian law, it's called acquiescence. Acquiescence means your compliance is consent. I'm not an activist, I'm a mother. I'm content to be at home and read a book. That was me. So when Bill C-45 happened, we said, people have a right to know. Because nobody knew. Nobody was even talking about it. This massive document. In the history of the Canadian Parliament, no bill has ever been moved so quickly without any parliamentary debate through the Canadian Parliament. It was passed on December 14th. Despite all of our lobbying, despite all the thousands of us that walked to Parliament, to the Canadian Parliament. And if you know anything about Canada, it's really cold. It was snowing, and we walked, thousands of us with our flags. The Canadian government, the Harper government, passed it into law. Today, there's 13 other bills that are going through the Canadian Parliament that are just as terrible and just as detrimental to us as Indigenous people. How does that affect you? We all share the same waters. And if Canada continues to contaminate and devastate the waters, it's going to affect your water as well. I can almost guarantee you that. So on November 10th, and I think this is where being not having a background in activism, we said, let's go out there and talk to people. Even if we have to stand in a corner, and we've got to do something. We have to reach people. I'm an educator, and so are the other ladies. So we said, let's do a teach-it. So on November 10th, we had our first teach-in in Saskatoon. And before that, before it happened, we had people approach us and they said, can we sing? Can we, that's how we want to convey our message. Can we sing? And I'm very much a grassroots person. I'm not a practicing lawyer, not at all. So I came from the reserve, the reservation of my people. And then when people were asking us, can we say a poem? The 4 founders and I kind of stood back and we looked at him and we said, okay. Okay, say a poem, you know? And this is where it grew out of. We understood that the grassroots people, their voice is creative. It's diverse. It's not a piece of paper that you can come forward with. So we opened up the floor, the microphone, and then we said, yes, say a prayer, say a song, do a dance, say a poem. And I'll share some of those this afternoon when I do a teach-in. I'll share some of that. But that's the grassroots voice. It became so powerful that it was heard all over the world. So that's the summary of I Know More. But I thank you for being here this morning to hear the voice of the grassroots from my territory. Thank you.